Welcome to the King of Iron Fist tournament, a stage where destiny, rivalry and vengeance collide. In a world fueled by power and ambition, there are warriors who seek victory and those who seek retribution. Among all of Tekken's feuds and apocalyptic power plays, there is a quieter epic that is told in suplexes, Mento's wisdom, and the heavy oath of a jaguar's help. A saga of two brothers who shared a name and two kings who shared a dream. I'm Arcadenaut here, and today, just like we did with Kazuya Mishima, King, Hwoarang, Jin Kazama, Eddie Gordo, and Anna Williams, we are exploring the complete story of Armor King. Both the mentor whose heart held a generation together, and the brother who turned grief into a mission. From the underground rings, countless nights in training, and to endless grudges. This is the full legacy of the Jaguar-Masked. Before there was rivalry, there was a traveler, a luchador who moved from ring to ring, gym to gym, announcing himself not with press conferences but by showing up as the infamous Dojo Crasher. He fought for the craft itself, hunting opponents worth the bruise. In time, he started to be called as Armor King. Wearing a black jaguar mask, armor plates with one green eye and one eye that never healed. Armor King wasn't born a myth, but simply trained into existence. In those circuits, he met another masked wrestler called King, already rising for all the right reasons. That is, fighting to keep an orphanage alive. Their first collusion ended in misfortune. In the heat of a match, King accidentally crushed one of Armor King's eyes, as that injury would become a red glowing mark on the mask and a permanent reminder of how close the ring lives to a disaster. As Armor King's star climbed and his own health faltered, the old predator faced a choice: disappear or recalibrate. He chose the latter, as the ring became his answer to settle it where it mattered the most, in a tournament. When the first King of Iron Fist tournament was announced, King entered to fund the orphanage, while Armor King entered to face the truth of that scar. He didn't posture, he prepared. What began as a bid for revenge evolved into something harder: an acceptance. During the first King of Iron Fist tournament, Armor King lost to King a second time, and instead of nursing the wound, he discovered that rivalry, when it is honest, becomes a discipline. The two kings began to train together, their lockups sharpened. From enemies to sparring partners, they turned rivalry into a gym with the lights always on. Following the events of the first tournament, Armor King disappeared from the professional wrestling scene, leaving behind the spotlight of the ring for the shadows of underground arenas. Fame had never been Armor King's pursuit. Beneath the dim lights and in smoke-filled halls, he became known as the King of Underground Professional Wrestling, a legend among fighters who lived for the purity of combat rather than the applause. It was during this quiet exile that tragedy struck the man who had once been his greatest rival. Word reached Armor King from the orphanage that King had fallen into despair. A child in his care had died, and the burden of guilt and financial collapse had driven King to the streets, numbing himself with alcohol and isolation. The hero of the ring had become a ghost in an alleyway. Armor King sought him out, not as an opponent but as a brother in arms. A man who refused to let a warrior die in shame. He found King broken beneath the weight of grief. Without a word, he handed him back the jaguar mask, the symbol of who he used to be, and told him simply to rise. To Armor King, rivalry was never about victory. It was about sharpening the soul through resistance, and in King's fall, he saw a reflection of his own struggle, of how pride can corrode from within. When he told King of a new tournament being sponsored by Kazuya Mishima, it wasn't just an invitation to fight. It was a lifeline, a way to reclaim his identity. Both men entered the King of Iron Fist Tournament 2 with their histories intertwined. Armor King's role shifted from adversary to mentor, quietly guiding King through the storm. As their matches carried the rhythm of mutual respect, as their bond deepened, Armor King's body began to betray him. Years of punishment took their toll. Blurred vision, blood on towel, a heart that could not longer keep pace with the raw. Armor King's Tekken 2 ending remains as one of the most haunting in the series. Chest X-rays flicker across the screen, a heart monitor beeps, and the camera cuts to a dim locker room. Armor King sits alone on the bench, preparing for one more match. His breathing is heavy, his eye throbs, he steadies himself, stumbles, wipes the blood from his face, and walks toward the light of the arena. The crowd cheers as if they can't see what he is enduring. To the world, he is in fact the indestructible Armor King. And to himself, he is a man refusing to let the pain define his ending. That scene captures the essence of Armor King more than any victory ever could. He doesn't fight to win, he fights to continue. But continuation always comes with a price, one that the next era of fighters would soon pay for. Years passed, and with them the world of fighting changed. However, the soul of the ring, the quiet bond between mentor and pupil, remained. By the time the third King of Iron Fist tournament approached, Armor King had already begun to fade from the spotlight. His strength was still formidable, but his body told another story. Then came the tragedy. King I, the man who had once been his rival and later his closest friend, was killed by Ogre, the god of fighting, a creature hunting martial artists across the world. For Armor King, the loss cut deeper than any wound. King wasn't just a comrade, he was living proof that redemption through combat was real. His death left an orphanage in mourning and a silence that echoed in Armor King's soul. One of the children from that orphanage refused to let that dream die. That boy took up King's jaguar mask, vowing to continue his mission, to fight, to protect, to provide. But he lacked the experience. He lost match after match. His heart was strong, but his hands untrained. To the world, he was just an imitation. To Armor King, he was potential. Out of respect for his fallen friend, Armor King sought out the young fighter. He introduced himself not as a legend, but as an old friend of King's. What began as an advice turned into mentorship. The dojo crasher became a teacher, drilling throws, holds, and the philosophy that strength means nothing without purpose. In time, Armor King became like a foster father to the new king. When the boy was ready, Armor King revealed the truth, the real fate of King I. He spoke of Ogre, of vengeance, and of the cost that strength demands. Rather than breaking him, the story forged King II's resolve. As he entered the King of Iron Fist Tournament 3, not for fame, but to confront the monster that had taken his mentor. Since Armor King is not playable in Tekken 3, we learn more about him through King 2's ending. Armor King watches from the sidelines as his prodigy fights in the ring. The match is fierce, and with a subtle nod, a silent go sign, he tells him to finish it. The student triumphs, But when he turns to celebrate, Armor King is gone. Sitting unmasked on a locker room stool, his body bent in exhaustion. His face is never shown, but his silence says everything. A man whose life was spent fighting so others could continue. That ending became Armor King's epitaph. He began as a rival, became a brother, and ended as a guardian of a legacy that refused to die. In a world where others fought for power, he fought for a meaning. And through King 2, that meaning endured. Tekken 3 marked the end of Armor King's era, but not the end of the Jaguar-masked. The torch had been passed, the vow renewed. Yet fate, as always, had one more cruel round waiting, one that would turn mentorship into vengeance reborn. Years after Ogre's defeat, peace returned only for a moment, before violence found its way back to the Jaguar-masked. In a small bar in Arizona, a drunken Valetudo fighter named Craig Marduk started a brawl. Amidst the chaos, one man stood to stop it. Not with anger, but with experience. That man was Armor King. He wasn't there to fight, only to break up the madness, but fate had other plans. A single strike, a single mistake, and the man who once bridged rivals, raised champions, and carried the spirit of two kings fell. Armor King was killed that night. For King 2, the news shattered everything he had rebuilt. His master, his mentor, the man who gave meaning to his mission, gone. Not by a monster or a tournament, but by senseless violence. There was no tournament bracket for grief, only rage. Craig Marduk was arrested and the world moved on, but King 2 could not. He paid for Marduk's release from prison himself, not out of mercy, but so he could face him where it mattered the most, inside the ring. Both men entered the King of Iron Fist Tournament 4, their fates now intertwined by blood and consequence. And King II's motive was clear: vengeance. To him, Marduk wasn't a man, he was the embodiment of everything Armored King had taught him to overcome. However, at the end, just like his mentor, King 2 chose compassion over revenge, showing that the greatest tribute to Armor King was not to avenge him, but to live his ideals. Still, mercy has consequences, and as fate would soon reveal, some ghosts refuse to stay buried. Years had passed since Armor King's death, but legends have a way of refusing to stay silent. By the time of Tekken 5, whispers began to spread through the underground rings. Rumors of a jaguar-masked fighter clad in steel armor, moving with the same precision and fury as the man long thought dead. The world dismissed it as a myth, but in the fighting world, myths have a habit of walking back into the ring. King 2 had entered the King of Iron Fist Tournament 5 with a familiar goal: to finally close the wound left by his master's death. He had already faced Marduk once before, and though he defeated him, the rage inside him never truly faded. He entered again, determined to protect Armor King's memory through the only language he knew: through fight. Yet after the match, something unexpected happened. The two men, student and killer, shook hands. For the first time, King saw Marduk not as a monster, but as a man. It was a moment that could have ended the cycle, if not for what happened next. As Marduk returned to the waiting room, the lights went out. In the darkness came footsteps, heavy, deliberate and familiar. A figure emerged from the shadows. The jaguar mask gleaming, one red eye burning through the dark. Before Marduk could react, the stranger struck, a blur of power and precision that sent him crashing to the floor. When the lights flickered back on, Marduk looked up in shock. The attacker's mask, the aura, the presence, it was him, the Armor King he had killed. But this wasn't a resurrection, this was vengeance reborn. The world soon learned the truth. This was Armor King 2, the younger brother of the original, who had carried his siblings' mask and legacy into battle. Unlike his brother, this Armor King had no patience for compassion. His mission wasn't to guide or to forgive. It was to make Craig Marduk pay for taking his brother's life. His reappearance reignited every fire that time had tried to extinguish. King 2 was stunned. The man he had mourned, the symbol that defined his discipline, seemed to stand before him once more. But when he approached him, seeking answers, the response was pain. In Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection, Armor King defeats Jinpachi Mishima and crosses paths with King in the aftermath. King calls out to him, "Who are you?" But the masked fighter offers no words. Instead, he delivers a devastating jumping tombstone piledriver, a move King instantly recognizes. As Armor King walks into the sunset, the camera lingers on King's confusion and realization. "I know that move," he mutters. The King of Iron Fist tournament had seen gods, demons and cyborgs, but this was human tragedy masked in steel. One brother's death had given birth to another's purpose. And with Armor King 2's arrival, Tekken's world of wrestlers was no longer about rivalry or redemption. It was now a tale of revenge carried in silence, and the jaguar mask, once a symbol of mentorship and respect, had become a mark of wrath. By the time of Tekken 6, the myth of Armor King had twisted into something darker, heavier, a ghost story told in gyms and locker rooms. No one knew who the man behind the black jaguar mask truly was anymore, only that he had returned, struck down Craig Marduk and vanished again. His reappearance was less a resurrection and more a haunting. The official tournament records called him a mysterious wrestler in black steel armor, and his motives completely unknown. All we knew was Armor King was back. Behind that mask was the younger brother, Armor King II. He carried his brother's legacy like a wound that never closed. While the world debated his existence, he was already walking his own shadow path, even aiding fugitives from G Corporation's experiments, as if trying to atone for his brother's violent end. But for all his secrecy, there was one truth he could not bury. Revenge was still burning inside him. Craig Marduk and King 2 entered the King of Iron Fist Tournament 6 once again, both hoping to find the jaguar-masked phantom. For King, it was closure, but for Marduk, it was fear. Both wanted answers, but what they found instead was a reckoning. In the endings of all three men, Armor King 2, King 2 and Marduk, their fates converge into one of Tekken's most haunting sequences. King looks at a photograph of his late mentor. When he accidentally drops the frame, it cracks, revealing a hidden image underneath. Another photo of two Armor Kings standing side by side. King stares, realizing that the man he'd seen, the one attacking Marduk, wasn't a ghost after all, but someone carrying on the legacy. Then the scene shifts to a graveyard. Marduk, still uncertain and haunted, digs up the original Armor King's coffin to confirm what he already knows. And there it is, the body of the man he killed. As he turns around, a figure stands behind him, alive, breathing, staring. Marduk's face turns pale. King arrives moments later, asking who this fighter really is. The man in black armor simply answers, "I am Armor King and no one else." Marduk protests. He saw him die, he buried him himself. But the figure's tone doesn't waver. He explains that Armor King isn't just one man, it's a mantle. The one he wields now belongs to the younger brother of the fighter Marduk killed. In that moment, the cycle comes full circle. Two brothers bound by blood, one by life, one by death, both forged by vengeance. A silent flashback shows the original Armor King clutching his chest in a lonely hallway, confirming the heart condition that he showed his final years. The image fades, replaced by his brother's vow echoing into the storm. "I will never forgive you for killing my brother." And just like that, the meaning of the jaguar mask changed once again. Once it was a symbol of mentorship, then of redemption, and now of retribution. The legend of Armor King lived on, but this time not as a teacher or savior, as the shadow that comes for those who desecrate the ring. Vengeance doesn't heal, it hardens. By the time Tekken 7 rolled around, the world had learned to call him a rumor again. A mysterious wrestler in black steel and a jaguar mask, a specter people swore they'd seen in the corners of arenas and hospital corridors. Some said he died in Arizona, some said he never existed, but the ring has a way of telling the truth. In the aftermath of their brutal clash, Armor King 2 and Craig Marduk woke up in adjoining hells. Broken, wired to machines, rage kept alive by beeping monitors. When Armor King opened his eyes, there was a letter at his bedside. Marduk had written it. No groveling, no apology, just terms. If Marduk lost their rematch, he would retire from fighting, and if Armor King lost, his mask would be torn away, and he would forfeit the name Armor King forever. It wasn't a challenge but a line carved in stone. Reputation, identity, legacy, all on the table. Armor King didn't hesitate. He accepted. The Jaguar was done stalking in the dark. He would step into the light and finish what grief had started. Before that fateful fight could happen, the tournament's organizer, Heihachi Mishima, vanished and the King of Iron Fist Tournament 7 fell apart in the chaos. Armor King's revenge, so close he could hear the bell, was denied again. The mask stayed on, the debt stayed unpaid, till the King of Iron Fist Tournament 8. The world changed hands, G-Corp seized control, and Armor King stewed in the only thing that never left him: anger. The longer he waited, the sharper it became, as a man who would break rules, break bones, and break the cycle only by ending it himself. A familiar shadow stepped into his path. King, not the boy anymore, but as a champion of pro wrestling, the heir to two legacies, and the one person who knew exactly what that mask used to mean. King had once been consumed by revenge too. He had clawed his way back from it, and now he stood in front of Armor King with a message: turn back. The gauntlet was thrown, not out of pride, but out of desperation. King betting his life in the ring to keep his mentor's brother from drowning in the same fire that nearly consumed him. Although Armor King bore King no hatred, how could he? The boy was his brother's beloved apprentice, but this wasn't about hate. It was about a promise made over a grave. So he did what he had sworn never to do. He broke the seal on a forbidden technique, a move his elder brother had taught him in secret and warned him to never use. The brother embraced his role completely. Appearing as the third DLC character of Tekken 8's second season, Armor King is adamant that he would not fail his brother again. The legend of Armor King lived on. In the end, Armor King is not a man. It's a vow, a black jaguar mask passed from rival to brother, from teacher to heir, a promise that the ring remembers who you were and asks who you'll become. We have watched it all. Rivalry hammered into respect, mentorship tested by grief, and a younger brother turning sorrow into steel. From underground halls to world stages, from ogre's shadows to G-Corp's reign, the Jaguar never stopped breathing. One truth remained true every suplex, every tombstone, every broken oath. Strength isn't the roar, it's the reason. King fought for hope, Armor King fought for meaning, and when the world tried to bury both, the mask rose again and again until the legacy was louder than loss. This is the story of two brothers who shared a name, and two kings who shared a dream. The Dojo Crasher who became a guardian, the Avenger who became a storm, and somewhere between them, the ring, still waiting under the lights, asking the only question that matters. What will you fight for? And I hope you enjoyed today's video. Tell me which Armor King speaks to you more, the mentor whose hand lifted a generation, or the brother who refused to let grief be the last chapter? And who should I cover next from Tekken's world? Your comments shape the next deep dive. Any humble support through Patreon and YouTube join is really appreciated, and I will see you soon in the next video.